fun, have a bit of a kind of all-time worst combined Hearts Hibs 11 guys from our lifetime. So basically, we've said rather than be all Hibs or all Hearts or whatever else, we'll do a maximum of 6 players from each side. And again, touching to you before we came on, I've kind of done it that the goalkeeper you can debate, and I'll have like 5 outfield players Hibs, 5 outfield players Hearts, and basically 4-4-2, 1 full back, 1 centre mid, 1 centre back, 1 winger, 1 striker for each. So keep it nice and clean. But so in terms of kind of the worst 11 goalkeeper, okay, we'll start with you. Who would you choose in goals?
There's no argument. It's Zibby.
Zibby?
Yeah, and I know I've said worst, and you would say that counts as best, but it's not. It's 100% Zibby.
Zibby Malkowski. So for anyone, any maybe young viewers that haven't heard of Zibby Malkowski, maybe their fathers and parents have banned speak of Zibby Malkowski in the Hibernian sporting household. Who was he, and why is he the worst ever keeper for Hibs?
We were getting pumped at Tynecastle, and I'm sure the Hearts fans sang, "Zibby, give us a wave," and he turned round and waved. There's obviously you've got the game at Hampden as well, where he gave Paul Hartley the freedom in Mount Florida to stick a free kick away. But he was just dreadful. He was just absolutely brutal for us. And this is, you can talk about this. You factor in, it's like, oh, this is like Derby Day players that were hopeless, but he was just hopeless, like consistently hopeless. Like he was absolutely terrible. So he's up there. He's my worst ever goalie. I know you probably have someone like Joe Pereira or someone like that.
Yeah. So Joe Pereira was Hearts got on loan from Manchester United. So you think, oh, Man United, he's got a bit of a fan for, must have some decent pedigree, training with David De Gea every day and stuff. Nickname El Gato, which is Portuguese, I think.
Was it not?
Well, it was at Hearts, but it was nicknamed El Gato, the cat, right? And basically, it was a bit of
like the chocolate cake.
Yeah.
That's my like Christmas belly talking.
Basically, he looks a bit like Derek Zoolander, and he played like Derek Zoolander in goals. Basically, doing all this pout and all this stuff, but he was a bit of a hologram in goals. And if he shot at him, goal. You know what I mean? Like, it was so bad. And again, in the season, Hearts were demoted, not relegated. Hearts would have demoted. Hearts would not have finished 12th when the season was curtailed had they had Craig Gordon in goals, because he was. It's just no confidence, and that lack of confidence seeps throughout the team. And for me, again, we can argue positions, but I have to put him in there. As I said, I'm still amazed that he's playing now. RKC in Warwick or something, and that's it. The Eredivisie.
I don't know if that's what it is.
Eredivisie. But I think his last game he played for them, he shipped in five or six goals. He was terrible. I remember someone put him on the Hearts group chats in, and he was absolutely beyond just what we expected at Tynecastle. But he was terrible. Right, full back wise, I'll maybe go next then. So as I said, a Hibs full back, so right back and in terms of a Hibs persuasion was Matt Doherty, which will amaze people, right? Being like, how is Matt Doherty in the worst ever Derby 11? But I think for me, my lifetime, I'm absolutely amazed he's had the career he's had since the 5-1 Cup final, where he was just a young lad, I think maybe 19, 20, just didn't give a care for Hibs. I mean, there's this famous YouTube video, I don't know if it's still up there, where he was interviewed by a young Irish boy who travelled over, must have been a Hibs fan. He's asking him about it, like, oh, we've been beat 5-1, how bad's this? And he's like, yeah, I don't care, I'm going back to Wales, whatever, toss it off, yeah, laughing, joking about it. Bit of a stinker, wasn't it? And it was a bit of an iconic Hearts video, obviously in the aftermath of 15th of May. And the fact he's went on to play for Ireland, to play for Wales, to get a move to Tottenham, just amazes me. I mean, so it was either him or Hibs fullback. You kind of got to give kudos to Paku Jabi, the Gambian Roberto Carlos, who again he's got another clip on YouTube himself of his free kick, where I think it goes out for is lucky it's not thrown, to be honest. It's absolutely terrible. But they're my Hibs fullbacks. I kind of was tossing up between Roland Edge, honourable mention, Ryan McGivern, another terrible one. But who would you say in terms of your Hibs fullbacks the worst?
Oh, Doherty by a mile. For the
Doherty.
reasons he outlined. He's actually, I'm still blocked off him on Twitter. Because after that game, and he went back to Wolves and he posted something about, I can't wait to start pre-season. And I said, I can't remember it word for word, but it was something along the lines of, F knows how you got effing torn to shreds by Andy effing Driver, effing hopeless. Which I feel, when you look at the time, Andy Driver's career he wasn't the player that he was when he broke through. And he made absolute mincemeat of Doherty that day. So, he would 100%, based on the career, it's absolutely mental. Like you say, and even the fact that I like Spurs are my English team. So 10 years later, he's still haunting me because he's still absolutely hopeless.
Cool. Well, we'll have Doherty at fullback then. We'll go to you then. The worst Hearts fullback from Hibs' perspective, Hibs fans' view.
Again, it's hard because there's no many Hearts teams that have been that poor in derbies over the years. I think there was the young guy that they signed for Ham. Was it that Leonard Sola you mentioned earlier? I think he was
Hamilton. He's like he was a young ex-Portsmouth youngster. Or whatever. Well, I don't think he was that young. He was like 24, 25. He was hopeless.
I've went for him. I said to you before we came on, I tried to think about the ones that were sort of highly rated. So I've went for hashtag God is God with Mr. Ruon Oshiniwa.
Yeah,
I'm sure that I think it might have been the 2-2 game, the Hanlon at Tiny game, and a ball broke to him. I'm sure he came on as a sub, and the ball broke to him about maybe 30 yards out. And he ran onto it and he hit it. And he hit the dip in the Gorgie stand, where the sunlight has come through.
Yeah.
He hit the dip in the stand. And he subsequently played the replay a few days later as well, I think. And he was just like, he'd played against, he'd been at the World Cup. He'd arguably apparently marked Messi almost out the game and then showed up and he was honking. Summed up by that field goal attempt to hit the houses on Gorgie Road.
I mean, the worst part as well is apparently Celtic were interested in him as well before Hearts got him. And for me, my abiding memory of Jonas Shiniwa is one of our friends, I don't know if you're watching this, Grant, travelled up to, it must be a 1 week game between Hearts and Inverness up in obviously Inverness, and a few of our mates went up and had like a puncture and whatever. They turned up and literally had to get the out, had to get a puncture repaired, go to a garage. They missed kind of most of the first half, and then kind of their abiding memory is like Johnny Shiniwa at a corner inexplicably punching an Inverness guy, this player in the throat, being like, "What's going on?" He gets sent off, like, "What's going on?" And then I said, our mate Grant and others like, "Let's leave." It's turned out I walked to the stadium at that point. I think Angelica,
he would make my worst 11.
Justice for Grant. He's definitely going to go in the squad. Right, I'll do a Hearts player then in terms of worst centre backs. So again, before coming on, I'd watched a few clips, and I will give an honourable mention to Gordon Pretzrich, who was terrible, and unfortunately I put myself through watching the Hibs 6 Hearts 2 game, and he was bad, but another centre-half from that game really stood out to me and was terrible. And then just generally, I think was at fault for at least 4 of the goals you could attribute. was 6'7" Kevin James. Absolutely hopeless in terms of a player. I mean, I think back to obviously Stephen Presley was playing alongside him with Petrich as well, but he was absolutely terrible. I mean, there's one. I think the first goal that comes in, he actually kind of ducks. The ball goes over him, and then Hibs score the first. There's a second as well where he just. It's honestly, it's like watching me play football at centre half, and that's not a good sight. Where he's actually so slow, it's like he's in treacle, can't move, and I'm like, how is this guy played for Hearts? And again, it's probably one of the kind of best results in terms of a derby that you can win. Our lifetime, Hibs 6, Hearts 2. And I'm like, he was so bad. I was actually angry watching the clip, and I'm like, because of this rage I've got at my lunch, I'm like, I need to put you in my worst team. So I'm going with Kevin James from a Hearts perspective. Who would you say Hearts-wise? Are you going with me, or are you anyone for you that stood out?
It was Petrich for me, I think. He was... I just remember at the time he was a big money signing, I believe, for Rangers. And he came with all this fanfare and, because he'd been relatively... So I think he was maybe part of the tail end of the 9 in a row stuff at Rangers, so he was actually quite well thought of. And he just turned out to be absolutely hopeless.
He was on a fortune as well. That's when Hearts, Chris Robinson spent some of that SNG money that were given and signed Petrich and allowed Jeffries to sign him. It was just... I mean, I'll let you... Petrich is probably the worst of the two, but Kevin James just made me angry. I didn't really enjoy my lunch break as a result of that. So I'm a petty man.
I'm sure he had really, really bad injuries.
Kevin James.
I remember when I was at primary school, he came to visit the school once.
As a police officer, because that was his new career, wasn't it?
It was like one of these school fairs, and you could pay 15p to get your photo with them. I think I went round 5 times just to tell him I was a Hibs fan. I was only about 6 or 7 at the time, and I just kept going round to say, "You're rubbish. You're at Hearts. I'm a Hibs fan. Thanks," and then went round again.
90p well spent, aye.
I was a bum at a very early age.
Right, we'll come to you in terms of worst Hibs centre back. Who are you going for?
There's a lot of hatred for a lot of Hibs players over the years. And I think the one that sticks out the most would be, he was kind of a left back, but he played centre half quite a lot during the relegation season, was Ryan McGivern. He was terrible. Summed up by that strange own goal he scored that night at Easter Road. I still didn't understand how it ended up in the back of our net. It almost travels to him in slow motion. It's not like the ball kicks off him. He boots the ball.
He was a bad player, and I think, see, when players have got like peroxide blonde hair, it's obviously an attention-seeking move to be like, "Oh, look at me, I'm quite confident." When you've got that hairstyle, unless you're Paul Gascoigne, like, I don't really anyone else can really pull it off. Maybe the Romania squad from the World Cup '98, but you're attracting attention.
I think that was his natural hair colour as well. I think he was. I think he was like Darnell for Big Brother.
No, really?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, well, I feel terrible now.
His skin was like a milk carton.
I thought it was ginger, no? Northern Irish laddie, ginger laddie, no?
No, I think it was his natural.
I'm going to have to, after this, I'm going to have to Google Ryan McGivern here. See what it was like.
And there's been a lot of contenders over the years. Michael Nelson, admirably, which is out. And then a few more over the last sort of couple of years. To be fair, if you're talking about worst Derby 11s, Ryan Porteous would be on my shout because he's never won one. So there's another omen for us on Monday. Porteous is suspended. So
I thought James McPake was never really good at Hibs as a centre half as well. Like, I mean, I just felt as a Hearts fan when you came against McPake, you're rubbing your hands. I didn't think he was that great.
He was obviously he was part of that day.
What day was that, Craig?
I think you called it the 15th of May. I'm not sure what day was the 15th of May. But no, there's McPake was far for the worst. He was one of those ones, but he kind of gets a pass because he got it. Like, yeah, he was one of the ones that got it. So
I loved when he played. It wasn't like it. Another player that I had down as well, purely because after Hibs, I remember this. The guy's named Sean O'Hanlon. So he was signed from MK Dons or something. So played under Carl Robinson, like, you know, kind of much fancy centre half. I think it was at Everton Youth or something. And I remember going to a Bournemouth Rose Brecon game, Scottish Cup. This has been about 10 years ago or something like that, 11 years ago. And he was in attendance at the game because he was trying to move to Bournemouth, who were then East of Scotland junior side. He was trying to get his release from Hibs in the Premier League to join Hibs, to join Bournemouth Rose. I'm like, how is this happening? I'm not getting my game at Hibs, so I'll try and join Bournemouth Rose. I don't know, that obviously never happened, but I was like, how bad must you be that, you know, sitting with the bench of Hibs to think, I'll try my luck down at Bournemouth?
Mm-hmm.
Bad player. Anyway, we'll move on to midfield. We'll start with a winger for Hibs, right? So I'll go, right, and you can tear him off here. I'm going to go with Alan O'Brien as a Hibs winger because I think he was signed to much, and again, fanfare, coming from Newcastle, who apparently had this electric pace as a winger. But
well, I can't remember that. He was absolutely like, aye, he was rapid.
But for me, he was a bit of a speedboat, no driver, had no touch, no crossing ability, nothing about it. It was just a runner.
He was fast as any, and then you put the ball in front of him and it just fell apart.
Aye.
Like, for him just to do doggies up and in the park, it was fine. Give him a ball, like, and it just felt shit. Went to absolute pieces. He's probably one of the worst in terms of, like I was saying, about highly rated and anticipated signings. Like an absolute, like I think Hibs spent about 550,000 on him as well.
What? Never. Yeah. I thought it was a freebie.
No, it was one of these ones where he was out of contract, but it was Hibs could sign him, but Newcastle were due compensation. And then John Collins wondered a few months later, why Rod Petrie wouldn't give him any more money for players. But he only done something once against Celtic, the squiggler, the day that Rankin scored the squiggler.
Mm-hmm.
He somehow crossed it in for Colin Nish. He took 2 touches for the halfway line and still almost ran the ball out of play. He was a massive disappointment. Like the fastest speedboat you can think of, but no driver in a straight line with no barriers, nothing stopping it at the end. It's like Roadrunner. And then, like I say, put the ball in front of him and it just falls to pieces.
Jeezy peeps. Right, so you agree with that for Hibs winger? Or you want anyone else? Yeah. Hearts, I'll ask you, Hearts winger. Who's been the worst Hearts winger you've seen then?
So not necessarily, I don't know if you could class him as a winger. Well, I just remember him being quite, I think it was the season in the Championship. And he was supposed to be he was going to be great. I think El Hasnaoui. He was one that was given the number. I'm sure we was given the number 9. He was heralded as something big, and just I think he maybe played half the season and still stayed on the books for another like 2 years while doing nothing. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I just remember the name. I couldn't. I was trying to go between. I was trying to think of actual strikers rather than like more wingers. You've had all right ones over the years. Like, I mean, Wanjo being quite good.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I was toying with a few of them in terms of wingers. But for me, I think there's Mirsad Bezlia, our record buy, who you could argue just under £1 million. Put one good cross against Dundee United, but was made of glass, broke to pieces. Again, fastest man in Belgium, another speedboat, but he wasn't very good. You could argue him. Recently, we've had a couple in terms of Chile that was signed under Cafro, who apparently played for Barcelona youth, signed for Stoke. I think Stoke coached all of football ability out of him. But I'm going to go with a player again who was on a decent wage. It was a winger, Danny Amankwa, the Danish lad, Danish international, 5 caps signed from FC Copenhagen, no less as well. He was so poor. And again, I remember the Scottish League Cup semi-final at Murrayfield. It was Hearts Celtic. Stephen Naismith goes down clutching his ankle or something. That was him, obviously kind of rubbered. And then Craig Leitch sent on Danny Amankwa. And I remember Hearts fans sitting behind me going, "That's it, gubbed. Go to the pub." And to be fair, I kind of wished them the same, because as soon as this guy came on, who wasn't a very good winger, playing up front, it was so poor. I mean, he, for me, has to get mentioned. For older listeners out there as well, watchers, Kevin Twaddle is another I would probably say who was signed. I think it was sympathy because Motherwell went bust. Hearts fan, we kind of signed him. It was what, a 6'1", 6'2" winger. Didn't really do much on the wing. Didn't really do much at all. But yeah, as I said, he's another one you may argue. But going back to you, Craig, for maybe Hibs persuasion, the worst centre mid for you.
So I've got 2 centre mids for Hibs.
Go for it.
The first one is Matt Thornhill. He played for Hibs around about 2010, 2011. Still up there with arguably as one of the worst players I've ever seen. I don't know what he done after he left Hibs, but he came with quite a big reputation for Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
With Colin Calderwood. Yep, and ended up. I honestly felt at the time that I could have went into Hibs midfield. I know you say, "Oh, I could do that." The job that he was doing, if that's what needed to be done, I genuinely could have went to that Hibs midfield and done what he done, because he was that bad. And the next one is Josh Vela, who came from Bolton. Now, those who are avid Football Manager gamers know that every year or so, there's players that just break the match engine or break it. Like Mark Kerr still gets spoken about because of the Championship manager, Toe Madeira, the fake one, Cherno Samba. Then through the years, you've had players like Freddie Adu, and Josh Vela was one of them. He was constantly 5 stars on FM. Bolton were selling him for 20, 30, 40 million to the Man Uniteds, Chelsea's, Liverpool's, etc. in the game. So when he signed for Hibs, we thought we were getting a tough, tackling, combative midfielder who could play like what they say Bellingham's number 22, because he can play the 6. Is it the 4, the 8, and the 10? Like that sort of thing. He can play all the roles, that's why he was number 20. And that's what we were told about Josh Vela. And his sole contribution was turning his back on Aaron Hickey. And then a few weeks later, Heckingbottom got sacked and we never seen him again. But for the level of hype that boy generated versus the level of return that we got was ridiculous. Yet he's now, I believe, Scott Brown's captain at Fleetwood.
Yeah.
So those are my 2 for centre mids. I don't think, to be honest, you're not going to get
worse than them.
Worse than them for me, anyway, from Hibs' perspective. And if I'm being honest, I think you'd actually toil to find worse from a Hearts' perspective than them as well.
I mean, Hibs wise, I had Thornhill down another couple. Tom Soares, purely because of that 5-1 game, again tossing it off as a kind of loanee player. I'll go with them. But from a Hearts' perspective, couple spring to mind as well. Honourable mention to Mallory Martin, who I think was an absolute.
In my 4-3-3, he was my third midfielder.
He was an absolute.
Purely because he spent 3 years just picking up a wage and doing absolutely jack shit.
Yeah, and I think he was a France Under-21 captain at one point as well, played with Monaco. He was, again, much fanfare. I think he's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous how they sanctioned. I think he was a 30-year-old guy at this time as well, 30-year-old guy, 3.5-year deal, ridiculous. I mean, there was others as well had down, like Grezlak, who I think must be like a dentist or something, because he was never a footballer, you know what I mean? Like, and I think it was obvious. Like, I think he turned up. There's a long joke. He turned up at Tynecastle to work on the new stand, and they said, "Oh, you must be the new signing," and they ended up signing him. There's this sort of belief that he was signed. It was a contractor, labourer or something. He ended up playing for Hearts, right? And he played like that. But I think he was never good enough in the centre midfield. A game at Easter Road, he was hooked to half time. He was so bad. Another guy that played recently was Martial Langer, signed under Stendhal, signed from Schalke reserves, and I think as far as I last checked 3 months ago, he was playing German Sunday League football. So a guy at 23, 24 is now playing German Sunday League. That tells you how bad he was. But I think in terms of hype, Mallory Martin, I think as a Hearts perspective, as a centre mid, he takes some beating. Takes some beating for me. Striker wise, this was quite challenging, I thought, in terms of Hibs, because there's been quite a few funny Hibs strikers over the years. But I'll hand it to you. Who have you got as your worst Hibs striker?
So it's probably quite harsh. I mean, there's a few honourable mentions over the years. Eduardo de Hank Hurtado.
Yeah, go ahead.
He arrived almost to keep De La Cruz company, and then ended up leaving a few weeks later because he was absolutely awful. There's players over the years. Chris Dagnall somehow has a Scottish Cup winners medal, despite doing the square root of nothing. But I think maybe harshly this one, but I went for Darryl Duffy.
Okay.
I think because he was, like I say, it's very harsh on him, but he was bought as Stokes' replacement. And I think he got injured very early on. And then when he came back, he contributed absolutely next to nothing. I think he's got like 11 appearances and no goals. So, and that was the season as well that we opened the new East Stand. So that was a big season for the club, and
yeah,
I would say Darryl Duffy, only because like I could sit here probably all night listing off.
Hamidi Conte, Raymond Vine, had those in my long list.
I know he scored in one, but James Collins, Paul Heffernan, those kinds. Sam Morrow, probably a bit harsh. He played in a really good team, but it's Darryl Duffy for me, and I've got the one, I think the unanimous Hearts one, as well as my other striker.
Go for it.
I think he's nicknamed Benny Useless.
Yep, that's how much I've got.
I think if I'm right, that was the Brian Kerr game when
it was
Craig Gordon's move to Sunderland. It'd literally only been announced about an hour
before kick-off, yeah.
He spent the entire game singing, I think, "Where's Your Gordon Gone?" Something.
Yeah, I remember it. Far away, aye.
Like that for the Roseburn.
Yeah, he was couldn't have gone. Yeah, I was watching that in Blackpool at the time, and I remember it just being like, "Who's this guy? Benny whatever, Benny Useless." But he was, again, obviously at the time, Hearts had brought in a lot of Lithuanian players, some really good, some not so good, and Benny Hughes was in that bracket. It was, again, I think he'd scored something like 45 goals in 90 odd games for Kaunas, but the Lithuanian League, again, no disrespect, is a kind of step down from the Scottish League, because obviously there was also another Hibs striker that had sort of Vladis Trakis or something as well. You had a Hibs striker that was Lithuanian as well, another honker, but he takes some beating. I mean, there was guys like Klimek as well, who again never played in the Derby, but was thinking Ludek Strakny. It was a really bizarre game. He was up at Dundee United when it was announced. It was when the fax machine from Romanov started going, where Hearts fans spent the full game saying of Robbie Nielsen to come on. One Robbie Nielsen, and again when he came on to replace Martin Petras. It was surreal. giving like people were like bowing down for Robbie Nielsen coming on when we were getting beat 2-0 or something. It was so bizarre. But yeah, there was also David Vanacek signed in recent times, who was really poor. There was a young guy, BK, that was signed to purely from Stirling Albion, purely because Hibs wanted him. And we never played him. It was terrible. Another terrible game. So there's been a few stinkers. But yeah, I mean, in terms of that team, how do you think it would fare in a derby?
Oh, with the flair, the players like Oshiniwa, that midfield three, you would toil to find a midfield three that we could take on and beat as easily as that one. Like, even in our relative early 30s now, but we could run rings around that midfield. That's a terrible midfield, and there's an absolute guarantee they're getting no goals. So I'd fancy them to get soundly beaten, even by this current Hibs team, to be fair.
And Matt Doherty after the game just tossing it off. Who cares about this combined West Eleven derby?
Back to Spurs, I don't care.
Exactly. Craig, it's been a pleasure having you on. Where can people find you if they want to kind of find more of your patter? What's the podcast you're on again for Hibs?
So it's just on Twitter. It's at the Hibs Ramble. We're the same on Instagram, Facebook, etc. So it's just like-minded shite patter for myself with the guys that I do it with, Liam, Mark, and Sean. So if you're a Hibby and you want to come and listen, I'll say it's the best Hibs podcast out there, but I don't brag. I have no ego.
We'll end on that bombshell. Craig has no ego. Craig, thank you for joining me, and as much as possible, hope you can enjoy the derby apart from the result. I'll say the exact same thing. You, and thanks very much for having me on, mate. It's been great. Cheers, Craig.